You ever have one of those moments where life just flips upside down in a second, and the one thing you least expect becomes the thing that saves you? That's exactly what happened on a warm, sunny afternoon in a farm just outside Louisville, Kentucky. It was one of those quiet, picture-perfect days. The smell of fresh hay in the air, birds chirping in the fields, tractors humming softly in the distance, and the Miller family enjoying an afternoon together on their sprawling farm. Kids running around, a little chaos in the best possible way, and a sense of safety that only a farm like theirs can give. Except, as idyllic as it seemed, the ground beneath them had other plans. Now, let me introduce the true hero of this story, a Shetland sheepdog named Scout. Scout was small, even by Shelta standards, with a coat that gleamed gold and white in the sunlight and eyes that seemed almost human in their intelligence. Most people think Shelties are just herding dogs, obedient and excitable, good for keeping sheep in line. But Scout was something more. She had a sharp mind, instincts that could read a situation faster than anyone else on the farm, and a level of loyalty that went beyond just being a pet. And on this particular day, Scout was about to show just how extraordinary a little dog could be. The day had started like any other. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were checking on their crops. Kids were chasing chickens and laughing, and Scout was doing what she loved most, keeping an eye on the family, running around the yard, occasionally barking at anything that moved too quickly. But something unusual was happening under their feet. The ground had been soft after several days of rain, and an underground cavity, something they hadn't known existed, was beginning to give way. A sinkhole, hidden beneath the grass, started to open silently, almost imperceptibly at first. Scout was the first to notice. Her ears pricked, tail stiff, nose down, sniffing the ground in a way that made you realize this dog was sensing danger before anyone else. And then, a faint cracking sound, so subtle that the humans didn't hear it at first, made her bark sharply, the sound urgent, commanding attention. The kids paused mid-chase, and the parents looked around, puzzled. Scout barked again, running in a tight circle near the spot where the ground was starting to split. She growled softly, low and deliberate, and it was clear, something wasn't right. The Millers initially laughed, thinking Scout was just excited or maybe chasing a bug. But then the ground cracked louder, and a small section of the yard gave way with a sickening rumble. Dirt shifted under their feet, dust and loose soil kicked into the air, and the realization hit. A sinkhole was forming right under their farm. Panic set in instantly. The kids froze. Mr. Miller instinctively grabbed his youngest. Mrs. Miller shouted for everyone to back up, but the edge of the sinkhole was treacherous, unstable, unpredictable, and expanding fast. This is where Scout's instincts became nothing short of heroic. Instead of running to safety herself, she began guiding the family. Herding instincts kicked in fully, and she started nipping gently at the children's heels, barking sharply, positioning herself between them and the unstable ground. Every movement was purposeful. She was using her small, nimble body to lead the family away from danger, her eyes locked on the edge of the sinkhole, constantly assessing the shifting earth. It was almost surreal, the tiniest member of the farm acting as the guardian of the largest members of her pack. Mrs. Miller later said she remembers that moment vividly. Scout was barking like crazy, running in circles, and somehow we understood what she was trying to tell us. It was like she knew exactly where to go, how to get us out safely. And she was right. Scout's herding instincts, honed over years of running the farm, had transformed into life-saving guidance. Every nudge, every bark, every strategic dash was directing them to safety. Meanwhile, the children, initially confused, started following Scout's lead. Her voice in bark form became their signal. Step away from the unstable ground. Move towards solid earth. Stay calm. Kids ran, sometimes stumbling, and Scout was there, alert, circling back to make sure no one got too close to the breaking edge. The parents followed, trusting Scout's judgment even as fear gripped their hearts. And all the while, the sinkhole continued to widen, swallowing small sections of grass, twisting roots, and shifting dirt with a sound that made every hair stand on end. You can imagine the tension, dust in the air, soil crunching, kids running, parents urging them on, and Scout barking with a mix of urgency and command, never stopping, never letting up, guiding them inch by inch away from a danger that could have been catastrophic. It was cinematic, dramatic, and frightening in the most real way possible. At one point, Mr. Miller reached down to steady his daughter, nearly stepping on a patch of ground that was about to collapse. Scout barked sharply, ran in a small circle around him, and nudged his leg. That tiny gesture likely prevented disaster. The family later admitted they felt as though Scout had eyes on every inch of the sinkhole at once, sensing danger before it even manifested. And in that moment, they realized the truth. Scout wasn't just a dog. She was their guardian, their guide, and their hero. By the time the edge of the sinkhole was visible in full, the family was safely on solid ground, thanks to Scout's guidance. The adults were breathing heavily, adrenaline coursing, but safe. The children were huddled together, looking at Scout with wide eyes, a mix of awe and gratitude. Scout, paws muddy and coat dusted with dirt, stood alert near the edge, scanning, making sure nothing else threatened the family. Even after the immediate danger passed, her vigilance didn't waver. She had fulfilled her mission. And here's the part that really sticks with you. Scout's heroism wasn't flashy or overly dramatic. She didn't leap over the sinkhole. She didn't bark at the sky or pose for glory. She acted instinctively, using her skills, intelligence, and loyalty to ensure that her family stayed out of harm's way. That quiet, steady courage is often overlooked, but it's the kind that truly saves lives. By the end of part 1, you can feel the suspense, the urgency, and the awe-inspiring nature of Scout's actions. You see a little dog, underestimated in size, taking command in a life-or-death situation, guiding humans, adults, and children alike, away from a deadly danger. It's a story that makes you reflect on loyalty, intelligence, and courage in ways you don't always expect. The moment Scout sensed that the ground was shifting even more, the tension on the farm skyrocketed. The initial shock of the sinkhole opening had passed, but the danger was far from over. The earth continued to crack and crumble, sending dust into the air and loosening rocks and roots underfoot. Every step was a gamble for the Millers, but Scout's instincts were razor-sharp. She moved ahead of the family, barking sharply, circling strategically, using every ounce of her small body to herd them towards solid ground. It's hard to describe the precision of her actions. With the kids sometimes distracted or curious, Scout would dart back and nip gently at their heels, her bark urgent and commanding. She was simultaneously scanning the unstable ground, monitoring the edges of the sinkhole, and guiding the adults. Every movement was calculated, almost as if she could anticipate where the earth would give way next. And the family followed, because they had learned quickly that Scout wasn't just a pet in this moment. She was the smartest, fastest, and most reliable guide they had. The children, initially confused and frightened, began to respond to Scout's cues. Her herding instincts kicked in fully, a combination of vocal commands, circling, and strategic positioning, guiding them away from danger. The youngest, Emily, clung to her older brother's hand as they stepped cautiously, trusting the small dog who had become their guardian. Scout barked again, a sharp command, stopping them from stepping too close to a crumbling patch of dirt. The sound cut through the chaos, the creaking soil, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of the farm machinery, and became a signal of safety. Meanwhile, Mr. Miller had his attention split between steadying the children and assessing the sinkhole. One misstep could have been catastrophic. At one point, he nearly stepped on a section of earth that had already begun to collapse. Scout reacted instantly, nipping at his ankle and barking frantically. The warning saved him from a serious fall. It was a moment that crystallized the extraordinary level of awareness and intelligence Scout was demonstrating. Mrs. Miller, watching the scene unfold, later described it as almost surreal. "I couldn't believe it. Scout was just everywhere at once. She knew exactly what to do. And somehow, we all trusted her completely." It's hard to overstate how remarkable that is, a tiny Sheltie, battered from running tirelessly in the hot sun and navigating uneven terrain, acting as the family's guide in a life-threatening situation. Her movements were precise, decisive, and fearless. The sinkhole continued to expand, swallowing grass, roots, and small debris. Dust rose in clouds as chunks of soil fell in, and the family was in constant motion. Scout led them step by step, making sure no one lagged behind. When the younger children hesitated or panicked, she circled back, nudging them forward, barking with a sense of urgency that demanded attention. She was their eyes on the unstable earth, their tiny but unstoppable guardian. At one point, the youngest daughter almost stumbled toward the edge. Scout reacted instantly, lunging forward and barking sharply, forcing the child to step back. That single action likely prevented a tragic accident. The parents, overwhelmed by adrenaline and fear, could only watch in awe as Scout continued to direct the family with unwavering precision. Neighbors, noticing the commotion and Scout's urgent barking, began to gather. Some had phones out, calling emergency services. Others were shouting instructions, trying to assist without creating further danger. But it was Scout who maintained control of the situation. Her movements, barks, and presence dictated the family's actions in ways that kept everyone alive. It was cinematic, almost unbelievable, but every neighbor who saw it later confirmed it happened exactly that way. The intensity reached a peak when the sinkhole widened significantly, a patch of dirt collapsing near the children's path. Scout reacted immediately, positioning herself between the children and the collapsing edge. She barked, circled, and nudged them toward a safer route. The family followed instinctively, trusting the dog's judgment over their own in a moment of extreme danger. Her actions bought them just enough time to reach a more stable area of the farm. The high point of the drama was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The children were safe, the parents exhausted but relieved, and Scout finally paused for a moment, paws muddy, coat dusty, but eyes still alert. The sinkhole had claimed a section of the farm, but the family remained unharmed. The level of control, intelligence, and loyalty Scout demonstrated was beyond what anyone expected from a dog her size. She had faced danger head-on, navigated a collapsing environment, and ensured the safety of her family against all odds. Emergency responders arrived shortly after, securing the area and marking the boundaries of the sinkhole. The Millers finally had a chance to catch their breath. They gathered together, holding the children close, and looked at Scout with a mix of admiration, relief, and gratitude. She had not only led them away from immediate danger, but had done so with an intelligence and courage that no training could replicate. Neighbors continued to talk about what they had witnessed. "That dog saved them," one neighbor said. "I don't care what anyone says. She knew exactly what to do." Another commented, "It's incredible to see a Shetland that small take charge like that. Unbelievable." And the Millers themselves were in awe. "She was our guide, our protector, and our hero," Mr. Miller said. "We owe our lives to her instincts and courage." What makes this story so compelling is the way Scout transformed her herding instincts into life-saving action. Normally, a Shelt's job is to herd sheep or cattle, but Scout applied the same skills to human family members in crisis. She assessed danger, guided movement, corrected behavior, and protected them from harm. It was a masterclass in instinctual intelligence, bravery, and loyalty. Over the following days, the sinkhole remained a stark reminder of how close the family had come to disaster. Engineers examined the area, marking unstable ground and taking steps to prevent further collapses. Scout, meanwhile, returned to her normal routines, but with a new status in the household. She was no longer just a pet. She was a hero, a guardian, and a constant reminder of the extraordinary capabilities of animals when instinct and loyalty collide. The children continued to follow her around, partly out of habit, partly out of gratitude. Even when the immediate danger had passed, they looked to Scout as a source of guidance and protection. Her vigilance had not wavered, demonstrating that courage and responsibility aren't just momentary. They're enduring qualities that define character, no matter the size or species. And the story didn't stay contained to the farm. Neighbors shared accounts online, photos of the area, and descriptions of Scout's heroic behavior. The tale quickly spread, inspiring awe and admiration. It reminded people that heroism isn't always found in humans or in grand, dramatic gestures. Sometimes, it's in a small dog, overlooked for her size, acting with precision, intelligence, and unflinching loyalty. By the time the sun set over the farm, Scout lay in the grass, resting, but the impression she left was indelible. The family knew, and the community realized, that a little Shetland sheepdog had saved lives using nothing more than her instincts, her courage, and her heart. And that lesson, about vigilance, intelligence, and loyalty, lingered long after the dust settled. By the time evening settled over the Kentucky farm, the immediate danger had passed, but the story of Scout's heroism lingered in everyone's minds. The sinkhole had claimed a small section of the pasture, leaving jagged edges and churned-up soil, but the Miller family was safe, completely unharmed thanks to the quick thinking, intelligence, and bravery of their Shetland sheepdog. Scout, paws muddy, coat dusty, but eyes alert and bright, lay down for a well-earned rest, though she never strayed far from the family. The children, still a little shaken, kept glancing at Scout with awe and gratitude. Every now and then, they would run over and hug her, pat her head, or whisper a small thank you, as if trying to convey the depth of their appreciation in the only ways they could. And Scout, of course, accepted the attention modestly, giving a few tail wags and settling back into her position near the family, ever watchful. Mr. and Mrs. Miller looked at her in disbelief and admiration. "I don't know what we would have done without her," Mrs. Miller said, tears brimming in her eyes. She knew exactly what to do. Mr. Miller nodded, adding, "I've been on this farm my whole life, and I've seen a lot of storms and accidents, but nothing prepared me for seeing a dog herd my family to safety. She's incredible, and that's what makes this story so unforgettable." Scout wasn't a police dog. She wasn't trained for rescue operations. She was simply a Shetland sheepdog with instincts, loyalty, and a strong will. Yet, in that critical moment, she became more than a pet. She became a guardian, a hero, a protector. Her actions weren't just brave, they were intelligent, precise, and life-saving. The neighbors, who had witnessed parts of the drama, continued to talk about it long after the sun had set. Some had taken pictures, some had filmed short videos, and others just recounted the story to friends and family. The consensus was unanimous. It was unbelievable to see a small dog, a creature so often underestimated, take charge in such a dangerous, unpredictable situation. One neighbor said, "I've seen big dogs, trained rescue dogs, but a Sheltie, calmly and decisively keeping people away from a sinkhole? That's something else entirely." Over the next few days, Scout received extra care and attention. Muddy paws were washed, minor scratches were treated, and treats and belly rubs flowed generously from the grateful family. But Scout didn't seem to care about the recognition or praise. She had done what needed to be done, and that was enough. For her, the real reward was seeing her family safe, knowing that her instincts had made the difference. The story also sparked reflection on a deeper level. The Millers realized that their everyday routines, the calmness of farm life, and their sense of security could be misleading. Nature is unpredictable, and danger can emerge when least expected. But Scout's presence, vigilance, and quick thinking reminded them, and everyone who heard the story, that sometimes the smallest, most unassuming members of a household can have the biggest impact in moments of crisis. The local community also celebrated Scout's heroism. People shared their admiration on social media, calling her the guardian of the farm or little hero with a big heart. While some joked about her size, everyone agreed that courage isn't measured in pounds or inches. It's measured by action, loyalty, and the willingness to act when it matters most. Scout's bravery left a lasting impression on the children as well. Even at their young age, they experienced firsthand the idea that heroism doesn't always come in expected forms. It doesn't have to be loud, flashy, or human. Sometimes, it comes in the form of a small, fluffy Shetland sheepdog who knows instinctively when to act, when to guide, and when to protect. The lesson was clear. Trust, vigilance, and courage can emerge from even the most overlooked sources. By the end of the week, the farm had returned to a semblance of normalcy, though the memory of the sinkhole remained a sobering reminder of how fragile safety can be. Scout resumed her regular routines, running in the yard, herding chickens, and keeping an eye on the family, but now she did so with an unspoken reverence. Everyone knew she had saved lives. Everyone knew that her instincts and determination had turned what could have been a tragedy into a story of survival and courage. And that, really, is the lasting impact of Scout's story. It's not just about a dog saving a family from a sinkhole. It's about resilience, intelligence, and loyalty. It's about understanding that heroism can take many forms, that courage doesn't require size or authority, and that sometimes The beings we least expect are capable of extraordinary actions. Scout didn't just act. She inspired. So here's the takeaway for all of us. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they bark. Sometimes they run ahead to show the safest path. Sometimes they guide us through danger when we can't see it ourselves. And sometimes, the tiniest among us are the ones who make the biggest difference. And now, I want to leave you with a question. If you were on that farm, standing near a sinkhole while danger lurked beneath your feet, would you trust a small dog to guide you? Could you recognize the courage and intelligence in a creature so small, so underestimated, and act on it? Scout's story is a reminder that vigilance, instinct, and loyalty can be life-saving, and that we should never underestimate the power of those who watch over us, even when they don't look like traditional heroes. Scout, the Shetland sheepdog who herded a family away from a deadly sinkhole, teaches us that courage, intelligence, and loyalty aren't measured by size. They're measured by action, persistence, and the willingness to protect those you love. And if nothing else, her story reminds us all to notice bravery where it often goes unseen, and to appreciate the little heroes in our lives, because sometimes they are the ones who save us.